So this high coupling is not at all encouraged one. Okay. Now let us move to the next concept. Layered arrangement of modules. Control hierarchy represents the organization of modules in terms of their core relationships, and the control hierarchy is also called as program structure. So the control hierarchy, that is a structure chart, it simply represents how the modules are organized in terms of core relationships. A control hierarchy of a design is determined by the order in which different modules call each other. Based on the call relationships between the various modules, the control hierarchy of a design is determined. So generally we will be making use of a tree-like diagram called structure chart in order to represent the control hierarchy among various modules. In a layered design solution, the modules are arranged in several layers based on their call relationships. A module is allowed to call only the modules that are at the lower layer. So this is how we can have a control abstraction. Okay, we require control abstraction, right, in order to have a understandability nature. Okay, so this is how we are controlling the abstraction. The module is allowed to call only the modules that are at the lower layer. It cannot make a call to the layer to the modules that are present in the higher layer. Okay, higher layer or even the same layer. The topmost module in the hierarchy can be considered as a manager, and that invokes that only invokes the services of the lower level module to discharge its responsibility. So only if at all the higher layer module is making a call to the lower layer modules, then such a kind of module is called as a manager. That is, the module which is invoking other modules, which is calling other modules, is termed as a manager. The modules at the intermediate layer offer services to the higher layer by invoking the services of the lower layer modules, and also by doing some work themselves to a limited extent. See here, these intermediate layer modules cannot be termed as a managers. Why? Because they are providing services to the higher layers by invoking the services of the lower layer modules. That means they are not completely managing the entire modules below the lower layers. Okay, they are not completely managing all the modules. Rather, only the topmost module, that is the root module, can control the modules that are present in the below layer. Hence the topmost module is termed as a manager. Okay, now coming to the modules at the lowest layer. So these lowest layer modules are termed as a worker modules. Why? Because they do not invoke services of any module. Rather, they entirely carry out their responsibilities by themselves. That is, they will not make any call to any other modules in order to accomplish any task. Simply they perform their task by themselves. Okay, so these modules are called as a worker modules. See, the module in the top root module is called as a manager. That is, the topmost module is the manager, and the leaf nodes of the structure chart are nothing but the worker modules. Okay, now coming to the important concepts and terminologies associated with a layered design. First one is superordinate and subordinate modules. In a control hierarchy, a module that controls another module is said to be superordinate to it, and a module controlled by another module is called as subordinate to the controller. A module which invokes another module is called superordinate, and a module which is called by some module is called as subordinate module. So that means if you consider a parent-child relationship, so here the parent is superordinate and child is the subordinate. Next, visibility. A module B is said to be visible to another module A. A module B is said to be visible to another module A if A directly calls B. Thus, only the immediately lower layer modules are said to be visible to a module. So that means we are having a module A, and below that module we are having module B. So now we can say module B is visible to module A, and there should not be any modules, any intermediate modules between this module A and B. Okay, there should not be any intermediate modules between A and B. Then we can say module B is visible to module A. Next one is control abstraction. In a layered design, module should only invoke the functions of a module that are in the layer immediately below it. So this one already we discussed in the previous session. Okay, we can control the abstraction only by giving the authority to the higher layer modules itself. That means only the higher layer modules can make a call to the lower layer modules, but not vice versa. Okay. Next one is depth and width. So depth is the indication of number of levels of control, and width is the indication of overall span of control. So width is nothing but it starts from the root and ends with the leaf. But depth is not in that manner. It is the indication of number of levels of control. Okay. Next one is fan out. It is a measure of number of modules directly controlled by given module. That means how many calls a module is making to the other modules. That is nothing but the fan out. Okay, it is a measure of number of modules directly controlled by given module. Controlling in the sense it is making a call, it is invoking the other modules. Below it, it is having some sub modules. Okay, so that count is nothing but the fan out. Okay. Fan in. Next one is fan in. It indicates the number of modules that directly invoke a given module. That is, if at all you are having a module, number of calls made to that module is nothing but the fan in. Okay. A high fan in represents code reuse and is in general encouraged. So high fan in the sense many number of modules are making a call to that single module. That means instead of writing that module again and again, what we are doing, just we are representing that module at once, and now that one module is used by various modules by invoking it. Okay, so that's what reusability is. Okay, so let us try to understand these concepts by this diagram. Okay, so here this is a structure chart. Okay, in this structure chart we are having totally 6 modules. In the 6 modules, that is module 1, M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6. So here the manager is M1. Why? Because it is the topmost module. And the workers are M4, M5, M6. Why? Because they are doing their tasks by themselves. They are not invoking any other modules. And M2 and M3 are intermediate modules. Why? Because they are providing the services to M1 and they are also invoking the services from M4, M5 and M6. And if you consider M3 is providing some services to the M1 by invoking the services from M6. Okay. So now in this structure chart we are having 3 layers. Layer 0, layer 1, layer 2. Coming to the width. What is the width? Width is the indication of overall span of control. So overall span of control, we are having 3 levels, right? So from M1 to M1 to M2, M1 to M2 and M3 we are having, and from M2 to from M2 we are having a control to M4, M5, M6. Okay. And from M3 we are having one more control that is towards M6. That means totally we are having three spans of control. Overall span of control is 3. See, M1 is controlling M2 and M3. That is 1. Next, M2 is controlling M4, M5, M6. That is 2. Next, M3 is controlling M6. That is overall span of control is 3. Next, coming to the depth. Depth. What is depth? It is an indication of number of levels of control. So here how many levels are there? Easily we can say that there are 3 levels. Layer 0, layer 0, layer 1 and layer 2. So that means its depth is nothing but 3. Now coming to the fan out. What do you mean by fan out? How many number of calls that a module has made. That's nothing but the fan out. Here M1 is invoking M2 and M3. That means the fan out of M1 is 2. Is there any fan in to M1? No, it is not getting any calls. Okay, so its fan in is 0. Now coming to the fan out of M3. Fan out of M3. So this M3 is making a call to only one module, that is M6. So its fan out is 1. Sorry. And coming to the fan in. So the fan in of M2. What is the fan in of M2? How many calls it is getting? It is getting only one call. And similarly M3 is also getting only one call. So that means the fan in of M2 and M3 is 1. Next coming to the fan in of M6. So M6 is getting 2 calls, that is from M2 and 1 from M3. So the fan in of M6 is 2. The fan in of M6 is 2. Are there any fan outs for M6? Is it making any calls to other modules? No. So the fan out of M6 is 0. Similarly, the fan out of M4 and M5 is also 0. And coming to the fan in of M4 and M5, it is 1. Why? Because they are getting only one call from M2. Okay. So in this manner, we can represent the fan ins and fan outs width and depth of a given structure chart. Next, essentially means low fan out and control abstraction. Layered design essentially means we should have low fan out and we should have a control abstraction. Low fan out means there should be very less dependencies. Low fan out in this indicates that there will be very less dependencies. Suppose if the fan out of M1 is 10, it indicates that this M1 is depending on 10 different modules. Okay, so whenever there is a dependency, whenever there is a lot of dependency, obviously we can't understand them properly. So we can say we should have a low fan out and we should have a control abstraction. A design having modules with high fan out number is not a good design. A module having high fan out lacks cohesion. Okay, so high fan out in the sense more dependencies in the sense high cohesion. Low cohesion. Low cohesion in the sense lack of understandability. So this is an example of a bad design. Okay, so where you can see there is no proper call relationships, there is no proper representation of levels. Okay, you can't say that there is a layer 0 or level 0, level 1 or level 2. Okay, so here there is no control abstraction also, and here the fan outs are also more. Okay, so now coming to the conclusion of high level design. The high level design maps functions into modules such that each module should have high cohesion and the coupling among the modules is a low as possible, and modules are organized in a neat hierarchy, that is by using a structure chart. Okay, so once you had ended with high level design means you had identified different modules, the control relationship among those modules, and the interfaces among various modules. And all these modules, that is in each module you should have a high cohesion and there should be low coupling among the modules, and all these modules are neatly organized, that is a layered arrangement should be there among these modules. Okay, so once you had represented the modules in this manner, then it indicates you had completed with high level design. Then you move to the next design activity, that is nothing but the detailed design. See in this high level design, so whatever the functions we had got from the SRS report, now those functions are represented in the form of modules. Okay, so we can see this design approaches later. First let us move to the detailed design. Okay, I think already we covered the detailed design. What we are doing in detailed design, so whatever the modules that are identified in the high level design, for all these modules we are identifying what are the data structures required, and we are also identifying the algorithms for each and every module. Okay, so that is done in detailed design. The detailed design, for each identified module we need to identify what are the data structures required, and we need to identify the algorithms. So that means the outcome of the detailed design is nothing but module specification, that is MSpec. Okay, so once we are done with this the detailed design, it indicates that we are ready with algorithms. Okay, that is the final outcome of that design phase is nothing but some set of algorithms and the data structures that are required for implementing these algorithms, so that we can easily proceed with the implementation part. That's nothing but the coding part. Okay, now let us move to the design approaches. So already I said you generally we are having two fundamental design approaches. One is the functional oriented design and the other one is the object oriented design. Other than these two design approaches, we are having two different design approaches. One is aspect oriented design approach and the other one is client server or component design approach. Okay, those are the very recent design approaches, but generally we will be making use of these two design approaches, that is functional oriented and the object oriented one. Okay, so generally these two design approaches are radically different. Why? Because they complement they are complementary rather than competing techniques. We can't make a comparison between these two techniques. Why? Because they are completely quite opposite to each other. Okay, we can't compare or we can't compete these two design approaches. Why? Because functional oriented design, in the functional oriented design we design structure charts, we develop structure charts, and that kind of design can be used whenever your implementation language is a functional oriented or procedural oriented programming language. And if your implementation language is an object oriented language, then you can go with the object oriented design, that is you'll be making use of certain UML diagrams. Okay, so both these designs are having equal importance. We can't compare with each other. These two techniques can't compete with each other. Okay, so coming to the functional oriented design, so the certain features of the functional oriented design are top down decomposition. Okay, so coming to the top down decomposition, a system is in the top down decomposition, a system is viewed as a black box that provides certain services to the users of the system. In this top down decomposition, starting at the high level of the system, each high level function is successively refined into more detailed functions. That means we start constructing the structure chart from the root level. Okay, first we identify the high level functionality. Now that high level functionality is decomposed into low levels, that is the least levels. Okay, so top down that's what top down decomposition is. We start with the high level and we successfully refine it into more detailed functions. For example, let us consider we are having a function create new library member. Okay, so this is the main function, create new library member. So let us see how the library member new library membership can be created. So it can be, we can first creates the record for a new library member, then assign a unique membership number, then print a bill towards the membership. Okay, so these three activities are required in order to fulfill the function create new library member. Okay, so now we can decompose this create new library member function, that is it can be further decomposed or refined into subfunctions like assign membership number, create member record, and print bill. Okay, so this is how we are decomposing, that is how we are performing top down decomposition. So this will be create new library member is in the topmost position, and now it is refined into assign membership member, create member record, and print bill. Next feature is centralized system state. The system state can be defined as the values of certain data items that determine the response of a system to a user action or external event. The system state is centralized and shared among different functions. So system state it's nothing but in a functional oriented design, a system state is nothing but it is the value of certain data items at that current moment, the current position, what is the value of certain data items that gives the system state. And this system state is centralized and shared among different functions. Okay. So for example, let us consider in a library management system, several functions such as create new member, delete member, update member record, all these three functions share data, share common data, that's nothing but member records for reference and updation. Okay, so create new member. So this function will create a new library member, and the same that new entry is made in the members record itself. And whenever you want to perform the function delete member, okay, you can delete the member by deleting that entry from the members record data item, and you can update a member record function only by updating the member record data item. Okay, so that means here the state of this particular data item is shared among several functions. Okay, so that is there is a centralized system state. Several functional oriented design approaches have been developed like structured design, Jackson's structured design, Warnier or methodology with stepwise refinement, and Hartley-Fairbairn's methodology. So generally we are using this structured design. Okay. Now coming to the next design approach, that is object oriented design. In object oriented design approach, the system is viewed as a collection of objects. Okay, so here the system is viewed as a collection of objects. These objects are nothing but the entities. Each object is associated with a set of functions called methods. So now here we no more use the terminology as a function. Now the function is referred as a method. Each and every object will be having certain methods. The data internal to an object cannot be accessed directly by other objects. It can be accessed only by invoking the methods of that object. So here the object consider the data just like a data items in the functional oriented approach. Here we are having the objects, and each and every object will be provided with certain data item with certain data. Okay, now if at all you want to use the data of certain objects, okay, that cannot be directly used by other objects. Suppose we are having object A and object B. Suppose object B wants to make use of the data of object A, then it cannot directly use it in that manner. So if you consider in the structure oriented approach, that is in the functional oriented approach, here we are having three functions which are commonly sharing the same data item, that is the members record, but that cannot be done in object oriented approach. Okay, so if at all you want to share the data of an object to the other object, it can be done only through invocations of the methods of that object. Okay, and here the system state is decentralized since there is no globally shared data in the system and the data is stored in each object. Okay, so rather than sharing the data items among various data objects, among various objects, here each and every object will be storing its own data. That means here the system state is centralized. So let us consider a library automation software. So here each library member is a separate object with its own data and function, and the functions defined for one object cannot directly refer to or change the data of other objects. Objects have their own internal data which defines their state. So here the system state is nothing but the state of the object. Okay. Similar objects constitute a class. That is, similar objects can be considered. A class is nothing but a collection of similar objects. A class may inherit the features from superclass. Conceptually, objects communicate by message passing. So all these concepts you might have came across in object oriented programming languages like C++, Java. Okay, so I'm not discussing much about these concepts, these object oriented concepts. Okay, now let us differentiate this object oriented design approach versus functional oriented. Unlike functional oriented design, in object oriented design, the basic abstraction is not for services available to the users of the system. Like we won't provide, if you consider the object oriented design, the basic abstraction is not provided among the functions, okay, but rather it is provided among the objects. Okay, so but real world entities such as member, book register, etc. Okay, that means here the real world entities are nothing but objects. Okay, here in object oriented approach, the basic abstraction is provided among the objects, not among the functions. In functional oriented approach, basic abstraction, that is control abstraction, whatever we had seen in the previous session. Okay, so that abstraction is provided among the functions. Okay, here the in object oriented approach, abstraction is provided among the real world entities. Okay, in object oriented design, software is not developed by designing functions such as update employee record, get employee address, etc., rather than by designing the objects such as employees departments. Next, in object oriented design, the state information is not shared, that is, it is decentralized. Why? Because here in object oriented approach, the state information is shared among various objects. Okay, so it uses a decentralized system. For example, in an employee payroll system, the following can be global data, that is employee names, code numbers, basic salaries, etc. Whereas in object oriented design, the data is distributed among different employee objects of the system. Next, objects communicate by message passing. That is, one object may discover the state information of another object by sending a message to it, and this message is sent via methods itself. Next, coming to the functional oriented technique, the functional oriented techniques group functions together if, as a group, they constitute a higher level function. On the other hand, object oriented techniques group functions together on the basis of the data they operate on. Okay, depending on the basis of the data they operate on, here the functions are grouped. And here, if they constitute a higher level function, that means if on grouping a set of functions, if they are leading to a single high level function, then we can group those functions. Okay, depending on the functionality, the grouping of functions is done in functional oriented technique, and depending on the basis of data they operate on, the functions are grouped in object oriented design approach. To illustrate the difference between object oriented and functional oriented design approaches, let us consider an example of automated fire alarm system for a large building. Okay. So first let us see what is to be implemented in this fire alarm system. Okay, so here we need to develop a computerized fire alarm system for a large multi-stored building. Okay, so there are 80 floors and 1000 rooms in the building. Different rooms of the building is fitted with smoke detectors and fire alarms. The fire alarm should monitor the status of the smoke detectors. That means in a building we are having 80 floors with 1000 rooms. Okay, and in each room it is fitted with a smoke detector, and whenever any smoke whenever it identifies any smoke, that is whenever any fire incident occur, it has to identify the smoke and it has to it has to ring the alarms, that is the fire alarms has to be set. Okay, so whenever a fire condition is reported by any smoke detector, the fire alarm should determine the location from which the fire condition was reported, and it has to sound the alarms in the neighboring locations, and it should also flash an alarm message on the computer console and firefighting personnel men the console around the clock. Okay, so whenever the smoke detector finds a smoke, okay, what the fire alarm has to do, it has to determine the location from where the fire condition was reported, and it has to sound the alarm in the neighboring locations, and at the same time it has to send a flash message onto the computer console, fighting personnel, and the console around the clock. Okay. Next, after the fire condition has been successfully handled, the fire alarm system should let firefighting personnel reset the alarms. So these are the conditions. Okay, now this can be implemented in functional oriented approach by defining certain global data items. Okay, so like Boolean detector status, detector logs, alarms, alarm status, alarm logs, neighbor alarms, sprinkler. Okay, so all these data items should be shared among various functions, and the functions which operate which are used to operate this system are like interrogate detectors, get detector location, determine neighbor alarm, ring alarm, activate sprinkler, reset alarm, reset sprinkler, report fire location. Okay, here all these functions are grouped together to perform a single task, that is to send an alarm, and after that if the fire is handled successfully, then the alarm has to be reset. Okay, in order to perform this high level function, all these functions are grouped together, and all these functions will share this data. Okay, that is in functional oriented approach. In object oriented approach, we are having a various classes. Okay, here the classes are detector class, alarm class, and sprinkler class. And coming to the attributes of detector class, that is status, location, and neighbors, and operations. Operations are nothing but the methods. Okay, so that is create, sense status, get location, find neighbors. And coming to the alarm class, the attributes of alarm class are location and status, and the operations, that is the methods which are performed by this alarm class, are create, ring alarm, get location, reset alarm. And coming to the sprinkler, the attributes are location and status, and the operations are create, activate sprinkler, get location, reset sprinkler. So in the object oriented program, appropriate number of instances of class detector and alarm should be created. So if at all we appropriate number, in the sense we are having 1,000 drones, that means the 1,000 objects have to be, that is has to be created. Okay, instances of class detector, that is 1,000 objects has to be created. Next difference is, in functional oriented program, the system state is centralized and several functions assess and modify these data. But in object oriented program, the state information is distributed among various objects like sensor and alarm objects. In object oriented design, the data is private in different objects. That is, the objects cannot share the data of one object with the other object unless they invoke the method of that particular object. The basic unit of designing an object oriented program is objects, whereas it is functions and modules in procedural designing. Okay, the basic designing unit of object oriented design is designing of objects, whereas in functional oriented approach it is functions and modules. Objects appear as nouns in problem description, whereas functions appear as verb. Obviously, yes. Though outwardly, a system may appear to have been developed in an object oriented fashion, but inside each class there is a small hierarchy of functions designed in top down manner. So finally, Grady Wooch, he summarizes the fundamental difference between the object-oriented and functional-oriented approach as: identify the verbs if you are after procedural design, and nouns if you are after object-oriented design. So if at all you want to go for the object-oriented design, you need to identify the nouns, and these nouns will become our objects. And if at all you identify the verbs, then you can go with the procedural design. Okay, so for the procedural design you need to identify the verbs, those verbs will become the functions, and for object oriented design you need to identify the nouns, which are nothing but the objects. Okay, so with this we completed the software design, that is unit 2 part 2. Now let us summarize it. Okay, so we started this with an overview of activities undertaking during software design phase, and those activities are preliminary activities, that is a preliminary activity or high level design activity, and the second one is detailed design. And we identified the information need to be produced at the end of the design phase so that the design can easily implemented using a programming language. So we characterize the features of good software design by introducing the concepts of fan in, fan out, cohesion, coupling, abstraction, etc. So there should be a high fan in and less fan out. In a good design, high fan in and less fan out. High cohesion, low coupling, and there should be a control abstraction. Okay, so all these features will lead to the good software design. Next, we classified two different types of cohesion. We classified different types of cohesion and coupling. So cohesion in the sense, cohesion is determined within a module, and coupling is determined between several modules. And cohesion is the degree to what extent the functions within a module perform for a single objective. Okay, and coupling is it is the measure of dependency or interactions among the modules. Okay, we should have high cohesion and low coupling. Next, we also identified two different approaches for software design, that is functional oriented approach and object oriented approach. Okay, so with this we had successfully revised all the concepts of software design, that is part unit 2 of part 2 software design. Okay, in the next revision session let us start with the third unit concepts. Thank you.